Uh, Happy Sunday. What do you think? I need to put the middle one up and do it the right way. Thought I could get away with it, but yeah, not too bad. Problem is then I'll go into the wood. So I have to think of something else. We'll get it figured out. But today we're reading from 12 by 12. We're going to be covering step 12. Having had a spiritual awakening. As a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all of our affairs. There are a couple of different ways you can do this. It's usually through sponsorship. And I actually hear this quite often that people say that, and I get it, that they say that they are scared to sponsor other people. Yeah, and I get that. We don't want. I get it because you don't want somebody to come back and say, "Well, you did this to me." Okay, it's not how sponsorship works, and if that is how sponsorship is working, then what we have is not a right situation. That's what it comes down to. So, welcome to the Daily Trudge. I'm Dion. Yo. Ed Kowalczyk was the lead singer of a band named Alive. In case you're wondering. If you're here, please say hello. You probably weren't wondering. Nobody ever asks her. Nobody ever comes up and says, "Who's Ed Kowalczyk?" No one. Just like nobody ever comes up to me and says, "Will you be my sponsor?" Doesn't happen. That's kind of what we're gonna be talking about that a little bit today. You're supposed to pick your sponsees. There are no directions in here on how to sit on your laurels and wait for somebody to ask you for help. Well, they got to be willing. See, if you think you can determine somebody else's willingness, I hate to say this, but yes, that if I am determining somebody else's willingness, I'm playing God. Period. I'm trying to get a little bit more light in here. I changed this one too to see it. Because the light's good for there, but I need to be able to read. So, right. Yeah, that's all. Whoop. It's like everything I have is just a little bit out of place. And I try. The joy of living is the theme of AA's 12th step, and action is its key word. Here we turn outward toward our fellow alcoholics who are still in distress. Here we experience the kind of giving that asks no reward. Here we begin to practice all 12 steps of the program in our daily lives so that those about us may find emotional sobriety. When the 12th step is seen in its full implication, it is really talking about the kind of love that has no price tag on it. Okay? That paragraph right there is why I don't take money. Okay. Now, if I came on here and did like, I gave you like, the 10 top tips for this, and then I'd be able to charge. But when I'm giving my experience for AA and my recovery, I have a hard time taking money for it. Because it tells me here that it's the kind of love that has no price tag on it. And this was freely given to me. So, now that is not to say that people in recovery that go on to be professionals and things like that, I'm not saying that's wrong. It's because it's not. Absolutely. Okay. But there you're going to have to, 1 to 2 years of sobriety, and you're going to have the right education. Okay, experience is great, but when you start getting into the field, you need to be educated too. Okay, or you're going to get very, very frustrated because it works differently. They don't work with God. They don't work with God. Okay, all right. Our 12th step also says that as a result of practicing all the steps, we have each found something called a spiritual awakening. To new AAs, this often seems like a very dubious and improbable state of affairs. What do you mean when you talk about a spiritual awakening? They ask. Hopefully, 12 by 12 can do better than I can because it's hard to explain. It's freedom. I see the truth. I see everything for what it is now. I just do. And a spiritual awakening, it's an awakening. I was asleep. I was asleep. Maybe there's many definitions of the spiritual awakening as there are people who have had them. Yeah. See, it's individualized. But certainly each genuine has something in common with all of the others. And these things which they have in common are not too hard to understand. When a man or a woman has a spiritual awakening, the most important meaning of it is now he has become able to do, feel, and believe which he could not do before on his unaided strength and resources alone. He has been granted a gift which amounts to a new state of consciousness and being. He is set on a path which tells him he is really going somewhere, that life is not a dead end, not something to be endured or mastered. In a very real sense, he has been transformed. Yeah, in the very real sense, you've been transformed because he has laid hold of a source of strength, which, in one way or another, he had hitherto denied himself. He finds himself in the possession of a degree of honesty, tolerance, unselfishness, peace of mind, and love of which he had thought himself quite incapable. What he has received is a free gift, and yet usually, at least in some small part, he has made himself ready to receive it. Okay. Now it says that what we have here, it is really talking about the kind of love which has no price tag on it. Okay, you're going to get gifts. It comes with the territory. Okay, if you do bad things in life, you will get bad things back. If you do good things in life, you get good things back. That's as simple as I can put it. But it works. It works. I don't need to worry about all the theological crap that has gone through my mind before. I don't need to worry about any of it. Okay? I'm starting fresh. Starting fresh. It's like hitting that reset button on your spirituality. AA's manner of making ready to receive this gift lies in the practice of the 12 steps in our program. So let's consider briefly what we have been trying to do up to this point. Okay? So all the steps were to set you up to receive this gift that we know is coming. Right? I know it's coming for you. Other people in the program know it's coming for you. That's why we say don't leave before the miracle happens. Don't leave 2 minutes before the miracle happens, man. Don't. Okay. Step 1 showed us an amazing paradox. We found that we were totally unable to get rid of the alcohol obsession until we first admitted that we were powerless over it. In step 2, we saw that since we could not restore ourselves to sanity, some higher power must be necessary to do so if we were to survive. Consequently, in step 3, we turned our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him. For the time being, we who are atheists or agnostic discovered that our own group, or AA as a whole, would suffice as a higher power. Beginning with step 4, we commence to search out the things in ourselves which has brought us to physical, moral, and spiritual bankruptcy. And step 4 is also the first action step, right? We made a searching and fearless moral inventory. Looking at step 5, we decided that an inventory taken alone wouldn't be enough. We knew we would have to quit the deadly business of living alone with our conflicts and in honesty confiding these to God and another human being. At step 6, many of us balked for the practical reason that we did not wish to have all our defects of character removed because we still loved some of them too much. Yet we knew we had to make a settlement with the fundamental principle of step 6. So that we decided that while we still had some flaws of character that we could not yet relinquish, we ought nevertheless to quit our stubbornness, our stubborn, rebellious hanging on to them. We said to ourselves, this I cannot do today, but perhaps I can stop crying out loud, no, never. Okay. Remember that we said that we were willing to go to any lengths. Okay. This includes sponsoring. It includes service work. Now, you don't have to sponsor like other people. Just have one sponsor. Take on one. Okay? Maybe a young person. Get started there. Okay? But you're not going to get the rest of the program until you give it away. And God give it all away. The only way I found, and for me anyway, and I'm sure there's other ways, mine's not the only way, was by sponsoring, because then I knew I covered everything. Again. Okay? Do you know how sick I am of reading the forewords? A lot. But I still do it. Because it's not about my recovery, it's about theirs. That's why my sponsees do the reading. I don't do the reading. When I get together with my sponsees, I make them do it. Because it catches on. And some of them aren't the best readers. Doesn't matter. Because the other thing that tells me is when they're going through it, they'll have a hard time with a word, which usually means they don't know what it means. So then I can tell them what it means. So there's little things like that I learned. Then in step 7, we humbly ask God to remove our shortcomings, such as he could or would under conditions of the day we asked. In step 8, we continued our house cleaning, for we saw that we were not only in conflict with ourselves, but also with people and situations in the world in which we lived. We had to begin to make our peace, and so we listed the people we had harmed and became willing to set things right. We followed this up in step 9 by making direct amends to those concerned, except when it would injure them or other people. By this time, at step 10, we had begun to get a basis for daily living. And we keenly realized that we would need to continue taking personal inventory, and that when we were wrong, we were to admit it promptly. In step 11, we saw that if a higher power had restored us sanity and enabled us to live with some peace of mind in a sorely troubled world, then such a higher power was worth knowing better by as direct contact as possible. The persistent use of meditation and prayer we found did open the channel so that where there had been a trickle, there was now a river, which led to sure power and safe guidance from God as we were increasingly better to understand him. That's a talk. Look at all the work you did. This is the part that I love getting to step 12 with my sponsees. Because then I get to say, look at everything you just did, man. You have no idea what you've accomplished yet. But you're about to find out. You're about to find out. So, practicing these steps, we had a spiritual awakening, about which finally there was no question. You will know it. it will be as much of a fact of anything else in this life. It'll just be fact. Why? Because it's your experience, and your experience is fact. The feelings are not fact. They are valid, but they're not fact. The experiences. Looking at those who were only beginning and still doubted themselves, the rest of us were able to see the change setting in. From great numbers of such experience, we could predict that the doubter still claimed he hadn't got the spiritual angle and still considered his well-loved AA group the higher power would presently love God and call him by name. I watch this happen a lot. I have a sponsee right now. He started out, his higher power was love. I don't think if he noticed, but he says God now. Okay? I'm not going to say anything to him. What did he do? Now, love is still his higher power. Okay? But now he's calling him by name. It has more to do with the fact that, like I call God God so I don't confuse other people, right? Now, what about the rest of the 12th step? This wonderful energy it releases and the eager action by which it carries our message to the next suffering alcoholic, and which finally translates the 12 steps into action upon all of our affairs, is the payoff, the magnificent reality of Alcoholics Anonymous. Yeah. And if you haven't experienced this yet, I highly recommend that you get your butt out there. You find yourself a sponsee. Don't wait for somebody to ask you to sponsor them. Please don't do that. You know in your gut, you know. So do it. Get off your butt. Go over there. Say, hey, man, do you have a sponsor? That's how I start. Do you have a sponsor? No? Okay. Well, I'm going to be your sponsor. I don't ask. I let them know. And I usually get relief from them. That's usually the reaction. Okay? And then usually what happens next is, I wanted to ask you. I know. I can see you staring at me. I can see you nodding and everything else when I talk. So I know. Okay? Even the newest of newcomers find undreamed rewards. It doesn't matter how long you have in this program. You can work any step that starts with 1. Yeah. But Dion, I only have a week. No, you have a week. The person that just walked in the door, you can help them more than I can. You don't know that yet. You don't need to know that yet. Why? Because your brain's going to want to take credit. And we don't do that here. I don't take credit for doing what God asks me to do. Okay? That'd be like being thanked for taking out the trash. He tries to help his brother alcoholic, the one who is even blinder than he. This is indeed the kind of giving that actually demands nothing. He does not expect his brother suffer to pay him or even love him. Yeah. That's the thing. See, when I'm working with a newcomer, I want anything. I got it. I already have it. I already have what I need. That's why I can approach this person. That's why I can I'm the person that's done the work. I can make a much healthier decision on a sponsorship for somebody than a person that just came into the program. You can too. Just meet them where they're at. Put all your own bullshit aside, approach them and say, what can I do to help? Don't determine what help they fucking need. Okay? Now, there's a guy in our 3 p.m. and, of course, he brings up several times he has 34 years, and this tells me something. Okay? He ran a new person off because he was being kind of mean, and I had to say something. I said, hey, man, you know, I've been in this program 35 years too. Okay? I've been homeless. I've lived on Skid Row. And certain types of people do need a little bit of tough love. But no, we do not do tough love here. No. Now, the thing is if you are approaching somebody, meeting them where they're at, you'll know if you need to be a little tougher. You'll know. God will give you these instincts. You have instincts, use them because they're probably correct by this time. Yeah. You are now a whole person. You're a walking, talking miracle. So quit waiting for somebody to ask you to sponsor. Whether his brother has received anything or not, his own character may still be gravely defective, but he somehow knows that God has enabled him to make a mighty beginning, and he senses that he stands on the edge of new mysteries, joys, and experience of which he had never dreamed. I'm going to do one more paragraph and then I'll wrap up. No, maybe. Well, I don't know. If people show up, I might go longer. So, practically every AA member declares that no satisfaction has been deeper and no joy greater than in a 12th step job well done. I've been in a lot of situations where 12th stepping was something that I was doing. Sometimes I did this in detox, and the approach was a little bit. The approach in detox is different because it's more of a clinic. It's more of a clinical, okay. But even there, I can still use my experience and things like that. This is back in the 90s, okay. But either way, but I'm going to tell you, it's the 3 o'clock in the morning disturbing 12th step calls where you have to get in your car, go meet with somebody else, and you go to somebody's house. Those are the ones. And if you haven't experienced that type of 12th step call, we don't really have them anymore. And it sucks because it's an experience to watch the eyes of men and women open with wonder as they move from darkness into light, to see their lives quickly fill with new purpose and meaning, to see whole families reassembled, to see the alcoholic outcast received back into his community in full citizenship, and above all, to watch these people awakening to the presence of a loving God in our lives. These things are the substance of what we receive as we carry AA's message to the next alcoholic. Yeah. Those are the dividends that you receive for doing what you're supposed to be doing. All right. I hope everybody has a good Sunday. I love you. Peace out.